Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Thursday evening to join us tonight for the North Star Finding Black Mecca Rough Cut and Artist Talk. My name is Christina and I am Factory Media Center's Operations Coordinator. Before we begin, I would like to take the time to acknowledge that the land of present-day Hamilton is situated on the shared ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation, by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe to peacefully share, care, and preserve the resources around the Great Lakes for years to come. As a community non-for-profit artist-run center, Factory Media Center is committed to active ongoing reconciliation in collaboration with Indigenous peoples in our Factory before. We are a media arts center in Hamilton, Ontario. We host exhibitions and screenings, provide multimedia equipment, studio space, and skill development workshops for local artists and independent filmmakers. Before we begin tonight's program, I would also like to thank our operating funders for making our programs possible. Thank you to the Insight Foundation for the Arts, City of Hamilton, Ontario Arts Council, and the Canada Council for the Arts. Thank you for making tonight's program possible, for supporting our screenings and artist talks. I would also like to acknowledge that Gaz is providing our tech support tonight, and Factory Media Center staff Sukena Imam has been helping a ton with social media leading up to tonight's program. Thank you to everybody who makes programs like this possible. It's not a solo job. If you're just joining us tonight, tonight's program is currently live streaming to both Facebook Live and YouTube Live. However, the rough cut of the film will only be screening on YouTube. If you're watching from Facebook, please check the link in the chat in the next few minutes and head over to our YouTube to start streaming the film. I would also like to mention that all Facebook chat and YouTube comments will be checked for questions during the entire program. Please write any questions or comments you may have for our artists, Angel and Godfred, below, and at the end of the artist talk, we will answer as many. Now, I would like to hand the stage over to our artists tonight. Their names are Angel and Godfred. They are amazing cinematographers, directors, fundraisers, producers. Essentially, the reason we're streaming this program tonight is that they've made a film entirely by themselves. And before I say too much, I want to make sure they have an opportunity to introduce themselves before the film. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the stage off to Angel and Godfred.
Thank you so much, Christina. And I just want to thank everyone at Factory for helping making tonight possible. My name is Angel. I'm here with my brother, Godfred. We've made this film for you. This is a rough cut. This is our, we're still in the process of completing the film, but we just want to share what we've done so far and invite you on this journey with us. You know, really just to see where we are and share some of that information. And yeah, and we'll have a great artist talk at the end of it. Please put any questions in the chat that you have for us, and hopefully we can answer those. We're hoping that we can provide some knowledge and information for upcoming filmmakers, new filmmakers too. Just share our process. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. Like my brother said, we're very excited to be here. This is just a rough cut, and we're very glad that you're on this journey with us. And welcome aboard. This is going to be very wonderful. We think we made a beautiful project, and yeah, we hope you enjoy it.
Okay, we're back. Welcome back, everyone. Just before we start the artist talk portion, I'm going to say that we had a little bit of a technical issue where the YouTube comments were disabled, but they're not anymore. So if everyone watching on YouTube can refresh your page, you can look at the live chat and post any comments or questions to Angel and Godfred. But we are now going to start the artist talk portion.
Yeah, thank you guys for being with us. My name is Angel. I'm here with Godfred. We are two of the makers of this film. Of course, it's still a work in progress, as you could tell. So we're just glad that you could be here with us. And if you have feedback, we're definitely open to feedback, so you can leave that in the comments. We're just going to be sharing a bit of our journey, talking a bit about ourselves, talking about who we are, our journey in the arts, the making of the film, any kind of challenges that we faced, and any advice that we might have to other artists, any upcoming filmmakers. And then our plans to move forward. We want to share a bit of that with you as well on how we plan to move forward and where we want to go. So without further ado, I'm going to let Godfred introduce himself. Talented man.
Peace. Hello, everyone. My name is Godfred Adjei. I'm one of the producers of the film and the cinematographer. It's an honor to be here today to share the film with you, this rough cut with you. There's a lot that we want to do with the film, obviously, but just to tell you a little bit about myself, I started making film professionally about 8 to 10 years ago. I've always known that I wanted to make movies and films ever since I was in high school. I went to a very privileged high school, so I was able to, put my foot through like certain doors that I wouldn't be able to put my foot through if I wasn't in a very privileged high school. So I've been making films for about 8 years now, and my dream in this whole field that I'm in is to be able to do what I want to do with my best friends. And this film was just a testament of that, because I was able to make a movie that I loved, that meant something to me, with two of my buddies, So yeah, I'm very excited to be able to share that with you and to be able to do what I love with my friends. And that's pretty much it,
Great. So my name is Angel. I definitely don't have as much experience in the films as Godfred does. My kind of day job, I work in human rights advocacy, healthcare advocacy for First Nations. It's something I've done for a few years. My education is in sociology and anthropology. So there's a picture of me in my graduation. And I think what's really important for me is education as well. So I've taught in the Halifax Regional School Board. I think there's some people joining us from Nova Scotia. I lived out there for 7 years. So I taught in Preston, which is the largest Afro-Indigenous, like African Indigenous community in Canada. So I taught at a junior high school there. I've also taught in the north end of Winnipeg. So I guess my passion for filmmaking really comes from this innate desire to kind of want to influence change. So I started in theater. Originally, I started in music management as well. On the top right there, there's some people that I work with that are known in the Nova Scotia music scene. They might even be on this call right now. But that's a theater I performed in. So just being in theater, being in the arts, it opened up a lot of doors for me. Eventually, I was working on music video sets and working as an assistant director. And this is sort of my first real, a film where I kind of took the lead in many ways, or something that we created together here. It's the first thing that I've produced. It's the first thing that I've helped to direct. So it was, it was a journey for sure, and we're still not done. So we've got a long way to go still. I guess we could talk about the genesis, just kind of where this film idea came from. It actually came from, it came from a guy named Dio Gibson, who's a singer from Ontario. He also tours around schools and he does a lot of talks on Black history. But I met him in Nova Scotia at a music conference in a place called Truro, Nova Scotia. And he told me about this place called Buxton. He told me about the place called Chatham. He told me a bit about the history, and I was pretty impressed. And I was kind of shocked that we hadn't heard about it already. So it kind of stayed with me, and I did a lot of research. I started doing some research on that. And it was just interesting that there's communities of people. There's a whole region in Canada of people who who have contributed so much to this country, but aren't really kind of left out of the textbooks. So I approached two of my close friends I've known for over a decade now, maybe longer, Torin and Godfred. And we kind of talked about the history a bit. And I think all of us had this sense that this was an important story to tell. So we packed a car and we went down to Chatham-Kent for, was it 3 days, Godfred?
Yeah, well, it was about 3 days. We were there for, no, it was, yeah, like 2 days, 2 nights, 2 nights and 3 days.
Yeah, the
like
exploratory trip where we just got to meet people in the community. We got to talk to people. We explored, went to different museums and
it was a more of like a research trip.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of research that went into it. Torin and myself did a lot of the background research, and we brought a lot of that information to Godfred. So we wanted to make sure that the community is represented properly, and that what we're talking about is actual. So some of the stuff that we researched before we went to Chatham-Kent was different than the things we picked up there. And I would encourage anyone who wants to make a documentary and wants to get into anything that's historical to really go to the place that you want to make a film about, and try to get the whole team down there to really understand the people, get to know the people, and then that sort of thing.
Because we didn't really want to get things wrong, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't offending anyone. So we go down there, we do the research, we try and figure out exactly what it is that we want to go in to make. Because when you're making a documentary, it's not as straightforward as like a narrative film. You're kind of going in there kind of hoping to come out with a beautiful story. So you with your research, you have a plan in which you know somewhat of what you're gonna get, and then with your experiences, you're able to pinpoint exactly where maybe you should be shooting here, maybe you should be shooting there, maybe you should get in this and that. And I'm using your research, conducting your proper interviews so that you're able to go back into the editing bay and put something together that makes sense.
All right. Some of the equipment, so Godfrey, you really, you kind of had to say on what kind of equipment we chose for this film. Could you go into kind of the choices that we made and why we might have made those choices?
Yeah, based on the budget, because this is very self-funded, we didn't really have a lot to play with. So we just wanted to go very bare bones with it. We went with 2 cameras that were like C200s. We had a couple of prime lenses and a zoom lens. Obviously, we had some tripods, and then the sound quality of a documentary is way more important than the actual visuals. So we wanted to make sure that we had proper boom mic that was recording proper audio into an XLR, proper XLR into a proper Zoom HN64. And then we had like lavalier mics as well. And then we also had camera audio. So we wanted to make sure that the camera and the audio was captured properly, because that's way more important than the video. And so, yeah, that's really the most important thing we had when it came to the film. And then when it came to the interviews also, we had like maybe 2 kinos. Those are just like 2 soft boxes basically to light the scene. So it was very bare minimum, bare bones. There was only the 3 of us that went down there, me, Angel, and Torrance. So we just had to make do with what we had. And yeah, we hope that it came out.
Right, yeah. I can go into it. So when we went down for our exploratory trip, everyone kept talking about this weekend, Labor Day weekend, which is a weekend where people from all over who have roots in the Black communities in Chatham-Kent, they come back to Chatham-Kent, and it's particularly Buxton, North Buxton. And that was probably, that would have been the time when we could really capture the life of the community. So we kind of set our intentions to go that weekend, and it was a 4-day shoot that we stayed there for. And it's interesting. I guess this is an interesting thing to share, but the interviewees that we had set up with on our first trip, you know, maybe 4 or 5 of them are we actually interviewed. There was probably 10 people. Out of those, we only interviewed 4 or 5 of them because the other 5 either weren't around or for whatever reason, we weren't able to get a hold of them. And then the other 5 or so people that we interviewed were people that just kind of happened to be there, or word spread around in the communities that were making this film. So a lot of people just kind of start showing up at the place that we were set up in one of the schools, and also down in Chatham. So it was pretty interesting, and we kind of took everyone that came and everyone that, you know, had something to contribute, and we spoke to them. And I think a lot of it was great. There's only 2 people whose footage we didn't use for the rough cut that you saw, but almost everyone else we were able to use, you know, their footage because they had something valuable to contribute.
I think what had happened was that because we had gone there for the initial I guess research, when we came back we were greeted with like open arms. Mm-hmm. And there was an event happening, and because it felt like when we went there, it felt like we were family. Mm-hmm. And so because we weren't outsiders, people felt comfortable to come to us and approach us with all these equipment and everything. And yeah, it made our lives much easier because it felt like we were a part of the community and we were doing something with the community. You know, yeah. It's something that we learned while we were doing it, but it was also something beautiful that we were glad to have been doing while we were learning to do it. You know, so just involving the community while you're doing a community project is a huge deal. And yeah, that's my takeaway from that.
Yeah, I mean, there was I don't know, Jason Dudley. He was like clearing the streets, making sure our shot was clear at the parade. There was Julia Chase, who helped take pictures for the poster. So, you know, there's people in the community that you don't see in the video, particularly that honestly helped us a lot, and just the way that they could, because they wanted to, you know, like Godfred said, it felt like we were part of a family. So
yeah, it was very in the beginning of the film, Mr. Prince is talking about how, this is a village and it takes a village to raise someone, and that statement is so true, because when you went there, it just felt like a huge family. Mm-hmm. Different families, but it just all felt like a really big, huge. Everybody just loves each other there, and I just want to go back all the time, you know.
So I guess that brings us to our purpose. What was our purpose of this film? We had to set our intentions if we were going to make this, if we're going to do a good job at this film. We really had to bring our minds together. Like I said, I have a bit of experience in education, and just the fact that we all went through, you know, the education system in Ontario, and something that we realized is there's really a lack of representation of Black stories, of BIPOC folks represented in the education system. There's a lack of it, and the learning resources that are used when they are mentioned are pretty old. They're pretty dated. Not to say that they're still not relevant, but they're pretty dated materials. So we kind of wanted to capture what history is, but also what's going on today. And I think it was important for us to set our intentions, and also mentioning the successes of the community, but also mentioning the challenges. Like, you know, they didn't live in a vacuum. They were still affected by racism. They were still affected by segregation. But there's something really empowering in the story that we felt, and we hope that we can try to convey through this film.
Yeah.
Just what these people were able to do and what they continue to do, what the people in these areas continue to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's very powerful. If you watch the film, you realize that these people that were able to move into Chatham-Kent around the 1820s, 1850s, they were able to create something of their own. And so much so that they created schools, hospitals, and during times of segregation, they were even allowing people from other ethnicities to come into the schools and learn with them and learn from them. The whole idea behind this project is to inspire and empower the minds of Black youth as well. Because me and Angel growing up, going through the curriculum, we didn't really learn so much about our culture and learn so much about where our people come from and what they did and what they can do, especially within this country, Canada. So when Angel was able to come to me with this Chatham-Kent history, I was like, well, why is it that I don't know about this? If I don't know about this, so many people don't know about it. How is it that we in Canada, we started the civil rights movement 10 years before they did in, why don't I know that? And so it's just so much more important for us to share this film and hopefully create some kind of a rippling effect when it comes to just learning about our culture and what we've done in Canada and our history. So that's our main purpose. Our main purpose right here is to hopefully to create, inspire, and empower the youth and the minds of Black people, especially because they need to know and understand that they help build this country. And yeah.
It's interesting. I was on a video call earlier, and it was two of my greatest two people I really respect, Winona Duke and Leah Penman, and they're doing a lot for food sovereignty in the U.S., especially getting communities of color, Black communities, Indigenous communities to access farm fresh food. And one of the things that Leah mentioned today on the call was that 98% of farmland in the U.S. is white owned. But over 90% of farm labor is done by people of color, specifically Hispanic people. So the people working the land are majority brown, but the people who own the land are majority white. And that's kind of I guess an idea that carries over here in Canada too. You have a lot of migrant laborers from Jamaica and Mexico who work the land. But this sense of like land ownership, this idea of land ownership, this idea of owning farmland in Canada isn't very, it seems like a revolutionary idea for a lot of people. Creating your own communities, building community, self-reliance, those kind of things seem like a very, it seems like it's a very strange kind of concept. And we were talking about this yesterday with Torin too, that there's probably so many people that would go and operate their own farms if they knew that it's been done before, if they knew that there's a community where they can go and they can have, be kind of free from a lot of the issues that you find in rural Canada when it comes to racism, or maybe the perception of that racism that exists in rural Canada. So, no, I think that's a really important aspect of this too, is highlighting the food part of it, the agricultural aspect of it. And it's a very agricultural area. Buxton started out as 9,000 acres of agricultural land. And these were mostly people who were enslaved in the US and were working for other people without any pay, coming to Canada and being able to own their own land. There's power in that. So I think there's a lot of different layers of why this story, why we think this story matters, and hopefully we can create that ripple, like Godfred said, inspire change. Yeah.
So I remember in the beginning when you talked about your friend Dio. Mm-hmm. I also remember that you were talking to us about what featuring him in this film, and we were also talking about whether future plans on how we wanted to wrap this film together, because this film's not finished, and you were thinking about maybe having Dio be like some sort of a narrator or something. So yeah, I guess when it comes to the film, there's still a bit more things that we need to do like film and the things that we need to do and add onto it so that it can be complete. Because like in the beginning, we want to, like we said, we want to be able to put you on a journey with us. And like right now, you're on the journey with us right now. And when you're watching the film, we want it to be even more apparent that you're on this journey with us to find a solution. And so in the future, with this film, we're hoping to help you understand this journey that we're trying to put you on so that we can all find a solution to the problems that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot that still goes into production. We still need to master the audio. We want to have, like Godfred said, something that introduces you into it. So whether that be a narrator or a skit, you know, like we have plans to really just make it more of a captivating film for an audience. So it's not just, you know, the history is presented to you, but in a way that's digestible, that's more digestible than what we have right now. But in order to do that, we do need quite a bit of funds to get out there and get the cameras again and make our way to find the right people and find the right audio engineers who can really fine tune the film. We also, initially, before we even started this, we talked about, you know, just how communities of color really in Canada aren't represented in the curriculum, aren't really represented in film. There's a lot of stories that, there's a lot of histories that aren't told. And a lot of these sort of pioneers, these people who helped shape Canada, whether they be African Canadian from, you know, like Ontario, Nova Scotia, there's African Canadian settlements in Alberta, in BC. The same goes for Chinese Canadians, Japanese Canadians who really contributed so much to society, but are still seen as outsiders, South Asian Canadians. So there's a gamut of stories that aren't told, that need to be told. And our intentions from the beginning have always been to try to turn this into a series, to try to tell these stories that aren't being told. So hopefully that's something we'll be able to do.
Yeah, indeed.
So how you can support us. We thank you for being here today with us. If you can share information about this film, if you can follow us on Instagram, we've got an Instagram page at the North Star Film. If you could check that out, just share information with, you know, your friends, family, people, people that you know, that'd be great. Factory is also hosting for the next, I think till November, Christina will be able to talk on this a little better, but I think till November 6th, there'll be shorter version of the film, like a clip being screened in the window of Factory Media Center. So we're grateful for them. They're also hosting a donation link for us. So you can check that out. Go to www.factorymediacenter.ca and you'll be able to find the Artist Talk page. From there, there is a link to donate. You know, any sort of funds that you could help provide us would be great. On this journey so far, we've, you know, it's been completely self-funded. We haven't been able to access any grants or anything like that. So yeah, we'd appreciate anything that you can do to kind of help us along the way. We also have a travel poster that we designed. I'll just be showing a prototype of that. So this will be in a matte finish. It won't be in the same finish, but this is a limited travel poster for Chatham-Kent that we've made and that we're offering to anyone who donates $50 or more. We'll have this poster mailed to you if you're in Canada, provided you're in Canada. Anything else to share, Godfred?
No, that's pretty much it. You got that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Angel and Godfred. That was my favorite part about working with artists is hearing about their process. So thank you for giving us a window into your filmmaking process here. And for sharing the rough cut of the film. I know sharing something before it's done is a very vulnerable thing to do. for trusting us and sharing your work with us. We do have a couple questions and comments that I will facilitate. Here we go. So the first question, I think you covered a little bit, but it is, what are your next steps, and do you have any plans to continue this project?
Yeah, so we want to finish the film. This is definitely a rough cut, so we want to finish the film. We want to try to we want to create it so it's more engaging for an audience, and not just, you know, historical facts being presented to you. So that's something we're looking to do. We also want to turn into a series. Hopefully be able to you know, get the eyes. We want to take it on the film festival route first of all, and hopefully get the right eyes and ears on the film, so we could pitch this as a series, really, because there's so much historical information that's left out. A lot of the information that's out there is not very entertaining. It's not very digestible for a lot of audiences. Yeah, so we just want to finish this and then hopefully be able to create a series from there. We will be going, if things with COVID clear up in 2021, we're hoping to go on the festival route, and hopefully take it around Canada, maybe North America, depending on, you know, what border regulations look like, or if it's digital, maybe we'll do that. But I think those are really our next steps.
Awesome. MJ has asked, what is your process to approaching the people you've recruited to interview?
Like, what do you mean exactly? Like, how do we approach them, or?
Like, how do you find the people you would like to interview? How do you reach out to them? Maybe what's the timeline of getting in touch with people and waiting to hear if they're interested in the film or not, or in being part of the film or not?
Angel, how long did it take, would you say? Because it was different for everyone.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because when we went down there, we met a lot of people, like I said. So we found maybe 10 people that were interested in being interviewed for the film. Like said they would. We got their contact information. We got their email address. When we got to Chatham, like I think it was a month and a half, 2 months between our exploratory trip and our actual visit. So we kind of formalized everything. We had this like long 21, 22-page document. People, locations, just how we're going to film, the equipment we're going to use, that kind of thing. But in that was a lot of contact information for them. When we went to Chatham-Kent back during Labor Day weekend, we were only able to find about 5 of those people, and then other people just kind of showed up. So like Godfred said, people supported us. People in the community really supported us. So they kind of seen this as something they were a part of, and you know, it is their history. So people were very invested. So a lot of people approached us. Like the professor from Manhattan College was a speaker at one of the events. I think he's a director of urban studies at Manhattan College. Adam Aronson. Yeah. He just approached us. I think Godfred and Torrin were outside the church, one of the church services in Buxton, and and just said, "Hey, you know, I want to be part of this, and you know, you guys can interview me whenever." And other people showed up too. So, and people brought other people. So, if the question is our approach to the interviewees, I think you just have to be respectful. The main thing is respect. Come from a place of understanding. Come from a place of respect. Come from a place of knowing too. When you're asking questions, though, even if you know, you might want to act like, you know, you might want to frame questions in a way as if you don't know anything, because a lot of times the audience watching this won't know a lot. So so that's kind of how you frame the questions. And if people aren't comfortable speaking about a certain part, there's some things that, you know, there's some parts of the story that bring up that are traumatic to people. So I think you just have to be cognizant of that, and not try to direct the conversation in a way that might bring up, you know, bring up trauma or anything like that.
Yeah. We also were able to, we chose the right time to go. We chose the homecoming weekend to go, knowing that there would be an influx of people. And we spoke to, I guess, the leaders of the communities, and they kind of opened the doors for us, kind of gave us this, like, the key to the city, so to speak. And it was easier for people to approach us knowing that it was a family event, so we got lucky there, picking the right time and going during homecoming. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay. 22 Paper Dolls is asking, what surprised you in the process of making the film, in terms of the process and also things you have learned?
I think we all learned a lot from being in the community. Yeah, I've got to think on that one. I don't know if Godfred has any insight, but it's a good question. A lot of the history, a lot of the information was new to a lot of us. The initial information that I got from DO was, there's this area of Ontario called Chatham-Kent, more particularly this place called Buxton. And there's a lot of Black farmers there. There's a lot of people. These are communities that were built by Black people, and it's not talked about. So from there, I think all of us, we spent, a long time looking through a lot of scholarly resources, books, audio recordings, just films that were available already. There's a really good film called Home to Buxton, which was one of our kind of viewing materials. There's another film that I think Torrin knows the name. I don't remember the name of that, but it just talks about early Black history in Canada, and it's I think it's made in the 70s or 80s. So just watching those, it was a constant learning process. We had to make sure we knew what we were talking about when we went there. So, and we were all on the same page with that. So that's a learning process. I think just working together, I think something that we realized is we all have very different ways of communicating, the three of us. So we kind of had to, the first trip allowed us to really work on our communication skills with one another, because we communicate very differently. Godfred's very outgoing, very he's full of energy, and I'm kind of chill and kind of, I communicate in a very different way. So yeah, that's something we learned about each other in the process. But I think once we got that, it helped. It was a huge help.
Yeah, and our friend Torn is not here, but communicating with Torn is a very emotional when he's communicating. So high energy, very chill, and very emotional working together. It's a fun show.
Awesome. A comment and a question. Loved hearing the documentary process. What else have you all worked on?
Godfred, I think
Well,
my list is very short on when it comes to film, especially. It's very short, but the Godfred's got an impressive resume. I'd like for you to share a bit about that Boris Cujo film that you worked on too. But I've assistant directed a few films in Nova Scotia. I've acted in a few films. The first film that really got me into filmmaking was Black Cop by Corey Bowles. I had a very small role in there, but getting to know Corey, getting to see like a major film set behind the scenes. Corey Bowles is he's in Trailer Park Boys too. Corey in Trailer Park Boys, but he made this film, and it's really relevant today. But it talks about a Black police officer, and he kind of internalizes a lot of trauma from racialized violence that he sees in the field, and he kind of just loses it and starts, I guess, terrorizing white communities in some of the ways that police officers are known to do in Black communities. So it was interesting. And then I've got a couple of short films that I've either acted in or assistant directed. So very, very small list for myself.
I guess when it comes to me and filmmaking, I've been making films for about 8 to 10 years now. I started in film school, working alongside really talented cinematographers in Toronto. So I assisted with them for a really long time. And then when I felt like, I was good enough, I picked up the camera myself because I've always wanted to paint a picture. But I wasn't very good with the paintbrush. But when I picked up the camera, I could paint a picture pretty well. So I about like 3 years ago, a bunch of friends and we went over to my motherland, West Africa, Ghana, because they wanted to do a feature film. The feature film is called Lucky. It's still being shopped around, but it was a beautiful. It was just an amazing opportunity for me to really flex my skills, because it was the first time I get opportunity to shoot a whole feature film. It's not just a short film. It's like a whole like hour and 30 minutes about this kid in college trying to like make his way. And while I was in West Africa, Ghana, trying to find myself, I was privileged enough to shoot a lot of music videos that were there with some of the local artists. I got to shoot a bunch of commercials as well, a lot of beauty commercials. And then I was also privileged enough to meet Boris Cujo, who's an American actor. He wanted to do a documentary about the diasporans all around the world, all the West Africans, about how they should be coming back to Ghana and giving back to their country. And it was a beautiful time because in 2019, they had this thing called the Year to Return. It was it was a big thing funded by the government. And so I was asked by Boris Cujo and his team if I could shoot this documentary because they see my work and they liked what I do. And it was a blessing because I was there. It was a perfect time. So I got a chance to shoot this documentary with about 50 other celebrities. We went all around Ghana to learn about the history. We went through the slave castles. So it was just a beautiful opportunity for me to use my skills to learn about my own heritage, learn about my own history, and also be able to teach that in a way. So yeah, so when I came back to Canada, like not even a year later, we end up doing this film. So I feel like the rippling effect has started already, and we hope to continue this rippling effect of finding out about this hidden history and teaching the world about it.
That's so cool. That's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And from Michaela saying, thank you so much for giving this project the time and care that it deserves. Chatham-Kent is a wonderful community with some amazing and warm people in it. Thank you for telling this story. Another question, what was your favorite and least favorite part of the process?
Well, for me, my least favorite part of the process is always, I guess, how we're gonna find money to make this, how we're gonna fund this and that, So that's always not fun because it derails things, and something that could have taken 2 months is now taking like 8 months or a year, all because of money, and it's just really, really annoying. And hopefully, in the future, we're able to get over that hump, but that is the most frustrating thing when it comes to making a project like this, because you need money to even take time out of your 9 to 5 to do this, because unfortunately this is not our 9 to 5. We still have other jobs, so yeah, that's for me, that is the most difficult part of it.
Yeah, I agree. And just to add, probably the second thing to that list would be for me is when you come back and you look through the footage and you have hundreds and hundreds of clips, and they're all named like VID 135, 456, and you have to figure out what that is. So just watching everything, labeling everything, I think that's a process that's not really talked about a lot when we talk about filmmaking. But anyone that's made anything, has shot more than 10 scenes will know that's pretty challenging. A lot of times when you look at the B-roll, there's parts of it that you can use, and there's large parts of it that you can't use. And sometimes there's B-roll footage that looks amazing, but there's one little shake, or there's one little car that drives by that ruins it, or you could see someone's reflection in a window. So I think that's a real tedious process. So to me, that would be second on that list after being able to fund it, having funding, finding funding, that kind of thing. So, and sorry, there's a second part to that question, I think, Christina, right?
Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
right.
was there a second part to that question? It was challenges and.
What was your favorite and least favorite part? I think you both answered least favorite.
Yeah, my favorite is just being there with the people there, because you kind of get this feeling of family, friendship. I mean, it's just it's amazing. It's amazing. Like there's people that I still talk to. A lot of the people in the film I still talk to, and they we got elders from the communities that wish us just hope we're doing well. And every now and then you get a text message from someone saying, "Oh, how you guys doing? I hope you're doing well." And it's a genuine sort of connection with a lot of people. And I think there's a sort of freedom when you visit these communities that you don't really see in a lot of other places. A lot of love. So I think those are the things I loved. I just absolutely loved, and how the community embraced us. That feeling, it's just it's a beautiful feeling. So that would be my favorite part of the process.
All right. Do you two draw inspiration from any other documentary makers or one?
Yeah. Godfred's probably got a lot lengthier list than myself, but there was a few documentaries we watched before we start filming. I can't remember all the names of all of them, but we watched quite a few documentaries. We wanted to make sure we're on the same page. We sort of found different ways of documentary making, films that had nothing to do with this community a lot of times. The one film that was really interesting, I've mentioned it before, is Home to Buxton. I think it's on YouTube. It's available on YouTube. I believe that's made in the 70s or 80s. And it's made by two filmmakers from Toronto, and they went down to Buxton. I think it focuses on homecoming weekend, really. It's a beautiful piece. What's really cool is a lot of the people in that film, we saw them again in that same church, right? So it was pretty cool to see that. But that's a film I'd recommend if you want to look more into the history of Chatham-Kent. Is a film called Home to Buxton.
Thank you. You mentioned a series. How do you think it would be divided up? What would
yeah, so back to the question, we'll be dividing it up by so the community, really. A lot of the history that we want to focus on are localized to certain areas. So this story was about Chatham-Kent. We want to localize. There's a community called Paldi on Vancouver Island. There's a place called Salt Spring Island. Really interesting history of both Hawaiian settlement, which is interesting, the contributions they've had there, but also there's a large there was a large influx of African Americans who left San Francisco, Northern California, and because of the segregation laws and the racism that they encountered in the States, moved to Salt Spring Island and established communities there, and that's not really talked about. There are a lot of South Asians who came from 1907 onwards to also British Columbia. And I talked about Paldi. Paldi was a multiracial, multicultural community on Vancouver Island long before Canada adopted multicultural policies. So you had, people of all ethnicities, all cultures living together, working together. It was sort of like this idea of like, this post-racial world that at a time when a lot of East Asians, South Asians weren't allowed to vote in Canada, which is interesting that they developed this community together. So I think we divide it by the type of a locality. We'll focus on a particular population in a place and really bring their story to light in each episode of the series.
Awesome, thank you. That was the last question, but I do have a couple comments to read you both. Thanks for sharing. I really enjoyed this. Thanks for sharing this work. And then the last one is by Michelle again. The next time you are in the Chatham-Kent area, please do stop by the Thames Art Gallery. I would love to keep an eye on your project while it develops. So Michelle is the curator of the Thames Art Gallery that joined us tonight. Is there any last thoughts you'd like to share?
Thank you for all those comments. Thank you to everyone who's joining in and watched this with us and heard our artists talk. I just appreciate you being here.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone that was here and watched our film with us, and everyone that's here that is following our journey. We appreciate you, and we hope that you will hear more of us, and we hope that you get to see the final film when it's completed.
And just want to thank Factory for this opportunity as well. Christina's been extremely helpful. We kind of met over a grant writing workshop, and ever since then, she's been extremely helpful in helping us just find new opportunities and things like that. And even for this, try to share this with a wider audience. And Factory's allowed us to take over their Instagram page. Torrin was, posting on their Instagram page for a few days. So yeah, I just want to thank the audience and definitely thank Factory.
Thank you so much, Angel and Godfred, for joining us. Just a closing message from me. Please do consider donating to the North Stars project. There's a link in our website to their PayPal page. And if you donate over $50, you do get the poster that you can see on the screen here. It's a like vector. It's really worth donating to this community. And if you really liked the film and you'd like to watch it again, the bad news is you can't do that just yet, but we do have a short clip screening in our Factory Media Center window on 228 James Street North. It'll screen every night from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. until November 6th. So thank you everybody for joining us. If you have any more comments for Angel and Godfred, send them my way and I'll make sure they hear them. Or follow them on Instagram, actually. Everybody go follow them on Instagram at the North Star.
Say, DM us, give us your feedback too. We want to hear from you too. Sometimes when you're so involved in a process of making something, you don't really, you can't really see the flaws, or you can't see areas where you might be able to improve as much as someone who's, a third party sort of. So we love to hear from you. Get a hold of us, and any ideas we're open to hear. Any feedback, any ideas that you have. So.
All right. One last thank you to Jessica and Sukena, who's helped us in the back end tonight. And thank you to Godfred and Angel. Thank you, everybody. And I'm going to end the call now. Have a good night.